I believe in the stadium. Thousands of people, fans, parents, and children all gather together to fill up and crowd a once barren wasteland to create a unity, bonded together by the middle steps of a well-lit purpose. The stadium, an overlooked most important part of a game, where people assimilate by putting aside all differences to join together voice by voice and heart by heart to help a team win a game through the power of believing. It's where friendships are made, love is rekindled, and where hope is always present. Growing up in a religious household with strict parents was not an easy thing to do. My parents and I would always argue, yell, and butt heads over religion, school, and God. All they wanted was for me to engulf myself into spiritual activities by becoming a missionary like my brother. I have always been jealous of the relationship that they have. Instead, I chose to find my own way, and because of it, they were never proud of me like they were my brother. They just never seemed to get my goals in life and understand my point of view through their own tunnel vision. Because of it, we never did have that close child-parent relationship that I have so desperately craved and tried to ignore. Maybe you can relate. It seemed that my whole life there was a wall between us that made a peaceful exchange of words or even a small conversation nearly impossible. So I turned to my best friends for support and my teachers for guidance as I put on a fake smile every day, trying to cover up the void I felt in my heart. August 4th, 2011 was the day of the stadium. I'll never forget that day. It was my first San Francisco Giants game against the Philadelphia Phillies. It was a day meant only for my dad and I. The car ride to the game was a silent, awkward hell since we had nothing in common and nothing to say to each other. Thank God for the radio. As soon as we arrived to the gates of the AT&T Park, all I could do was stare at the massive stadium that seemed to tower over the baseball players and, fear the beard, Brian Wilson. My dad and I made our way to our seats as the atmosphere drastically changed to one of excitement and anticipation as the lights of the stadium shone upon a uniformed sea of fans dressed up in black and orange, symbolizing their alliance and pride. At that moment when you think, is this even real? And when am I going to wake up? My dad turned to me and said something I will always remember. He said, "Welcome to your first Giants game. There's nothing else like a stadium." He couldn't have been more correct. That night, the San Francisco Giants suffered a terrible loss to the Phillies. We may have lost the game, but I had won so much more. My dad and I had talked and laughed more than we had in that entire year. I learned that we had more in common than I could have ever imagined. We just had fun and acted foolishly silly as if we were a pair of buffoons. I realized that even though our relationship may be complicated and near from perfect, my dad loved me and had from the very beginning, even though he had a hard time showing it. That night, a friendship was formed, love was rekindled, and a hope for a better relationship with my dad was present. There's nothing else like a stadium. This, I believe.
Be alright, take what you want.